Hey guys, Derek at ANGLR. Today I'm super excited to break down my August Monster Bass box with you guys. This is the Topwater box, so there's tons of topwater baits in here. Let's dive in, see what we got, and I'll tell you where and how I like to fish them. All right, so the first bait that I received in this month's box is the Excite Pro Series Buzzfire 3/8 ounce buzz bait. Pretty typical buzz bait, we'll dive into that. Up next is this Monster Bass Patriot 2.0. It's a new take on the original Patriot that a lot of you Monster Bass fans got in boxes sometime last year, so excited about this one. Up next, the Booyah Toad Runner Jr. It's a typical hollow body frog with a kicker style tail. We'll dive into what that does for the frog. Up next is the Hendrix Fishing hollow body frog. It's a very, very standard hollow body frog, and we'll dive into the hook placement and things like that on these. The next bait would be the Bass Hick Big Anthony 2.5 popping lure. This one's got a bit different of a cupped lip on it, so I'm excited to talk to you guys about that. Up next is the Z-Man Pop Frogs in Green Pumpkin. Everyone knows Green Pumpkin works really well, so excited about throwing these and talking to you guys about those. And then I also got some Katana OWG hooks that I'm probably gonna use to rig these Pop Frogs with. The last thing that I got was some K9 fluorocarbon, 12-pound test, so I'll talk about that a little bit as well. So I'm excited to dive in, so let's get to it. All right, so here I have the Excite's Pro Series Buzzfire. This is a 3/8 ounce, like I said, so it's got some good weight to it, so you can really bomb it out there. And I'm a really big fan of this big blade. You're gonna be able to move a lot of water and slowly retrieve this, which is my favorite way to use a buzz bait. Obviously you can burn them, but I like slow retrieves, especially in August. Your dead heat of the summer, those fish are gonna be a little more lethargic than normal. 90-degree water temps, could be high 80s, but you're gonna wanna really slow this thing down. This does a really good job of representing a shad on the surface. I would throw this with some cloud coverage just because it does have some black to it. You could throw it on a lighter style braid. I'll probably throw this on a 50 to 65 pound test because I like to throw my buzz baits over top of some thicker cover, grass, things like that. And yeah, that's how I plan on throwing the Pro Series Buzzfire from Excite. Up next, we have the Monster Bass Patriot 2.0. Now, as I said, a lot of you guys who have had Monster Bass boxes for a while now probably got the Patriot original. I think I got mine in like a cracked ice pattern or something along those lines. This one here has much more of a bluegill feel to it. It's got that chartreuse belly, some white on the side, and then really dark blue on the top. Based on water clarity, I would probably throw this with some cloud coverage as well. This chartreuse action along with the rattles in here are gonna kind of call them up. You could throw this in some murky water. I probably would throw it in clear water personally, simply because I think this chartreuse belly represents a perch fairly well. Just kind of, working it slowly across the top. This is a walk the dog style bait. Your rod is gonna have to have a moderate tip, and if it does have a fast action tip, you're gonna have to make sure you have slack in your line while you're popping it. Otherwise, you're just gonna chug this through the water and you won't have that really nice walk the dog action that these topwater spook style baits are known for. I really, really like how this is laid out. It's gonna cut through the air when you cast it, so you can probably bomb this thing out there. But also, I really like the hooks on this. They're very sharp right out of the box, and it's gonna have a really nice walking action based on how this bait is built. So I'm excited about this Patriot 2.0, and you should be too. The third bait that we're gonna discuss from my August Monster Bass box is this Booyah Toad Runner. This Toad Runner has some really small legs on it, only a few strands, so it's more of a finesse presentation on the top end, smaller style profile, but it's gonna make up for that finesse presentation by making a ton of noise and action in the back here with this bootleg kicker tail. It kind of looks like they took a paddle tail swim bait, cut off the tail, and then attached it using a screw lock to the back of this hollow body frog here. And to be honest, I haven't thrown one of these yet, but I don't see why it wouldn't work in more of an open, open water situation. If you're fishing some holes in the pads, I could see this being super effective. I have a feeling that this tail is gonna kick quite a bit based on, the length of it. It's gonna drag a lot of water, causing it to kick, create quite a bit of commotion in the water column. And yeah, once they come up and get this thing, because it's a smaller profile, I'm not too worried about them just grabbing this bootleg here, but if they happen to get beat up, what's really cool is they send a replacement here in the back. So, I'm super excited to throw this Toad Runner Jr. And yeah, that's how I would throw it. I'd throw it on a moderate to fast action, medium heavy to heavy action rod, depending on the cover you're fishing and the size of the fish that you're gonna be pulling out. So check out the Booyah Toad Runner Jr. that I got in my August Monster Bass box. All right, the fourth bait in my August Monster Bass box is this Hendrix Fishing, just hollow body frog. It's about 3, maybe 3¼ inches. Straight frog pattern, kind of like a bullfrog you'd find on the banks of a pond or, you know, your local lake. So this yellow and green strands here, a little tip for you guys that frog fish. If you're getting a lot of fish coming up and pulling your frog under but not getting a good hookup ratio, trim these legs up a little bit, because the longer legs, the fish are more likely to come up, grab those legs and not get the hooks and just pull that bait under. So what I really like about this is it's a super soft bait, like just super soft to the touch. Got some really nice, you know, hook gaps on it. So, you know, once that fish does bite down on it, those hooks are gonna expand out. Probably 5/0, maybe 6/0 hooks. I mean, sharp hooks. I'm excited to throw this. If you like frog fishing, you know that, you know, you're gonna need a pretty wide gap on those hooks, and you definitely have it with this Hendrix Fishing Frog. I'm super excited to throw it in the lily pads, anywhere that there's some matted grass that I think those fish could come up through and get. You know, I like kind of walking the dog a little bit with the frog, so you get some side-to-side action, but you could always burn it straight back to the boat. I like to throw my frogs on a 50-pound test, maybe even a 65 if I'm fishing that really heavy matted vegetation. And I'm gonna throw it on a heavy rod, probably like a 7.3 heavy, 7 1-to-1 gear ratio bait caster. You could go a little higher than that. I wouldn't go any lower than that in case the fish kind of surprises you on the initial cast and hits it. You're gonna wanna be able to pick up that slack line, lean on them, and you know, set that hook. One final thing to note when you're fishing a frog, whenever the fish does take this bait under, you do not wanna set the hook immediately. You wanna wait 2 to 3 seconds, make sure that fish has your bait. You can kind of slowly reel up, make sure you feel the fish, and then lean on them pretty good. So that's how you wanna fish this frog. That's where I'd fish this frog and what I'd fish it on. So I'm excited to throw this Hendrix Fishing Frog this year, probably sometime in the next month or so. All right, up next we have this Bass Hick Big Anthony 2.5. This is a popping style bait. Really sleek design. It's got some small rattles in there. I like to throw my poppers personally on a spinning rod, probably like a 7-foot medium to medium heavy, with a 2500 size reel. You can go straight braid, or you can go a braid to mono using an FG knot, or a double uni knot. You know, that mono leader I would use in that clear water. But what I really like about this bait is it's straight white, does a great job of representing those really, you know, young yearling style bait fish. It's got some chartreuse to it that'll draw in smallmouth and largemouth if there's a little bit of cloud coverage or there is a little bit of dinge on your water. These hooks are super sharp, so right out of the box, you know, you might not have to change these out like you would with some other styles. And what I really like and I want to talk about is this cupped lip. It's not very deep, so this bait's gonna push a ton of water every time you move it. You know, you could do a jerk pause and let it sit for 5 seconds. You could kind of do a 2 to 3 second cadence where you pop it, let it sit, pop it, let it sit, straight retrieve. If you get enough slack in your line, you might be able to walk the dog a little bit with it too, because that cupped lip isn't very deep. Lots of different ways to fish this popper, but it's the perfect size for the Northeast, and I'm super stoked that I got it in my August Northeast Monster Bass box. The final bait that I received in my August Monster Bass box is the Z-Man Elastec Pop Frogs. Now this is a soft style bait. I'd call it soft plastic, but we know this Elastec is anything but. I mean, super stretchy material, so it's gonna last a long time, even if the fish are kind of abusing it wherever you're fishing it. And as I said, in my box, I got some Katana OWG hooks, so I'll probably use these to rig it with a weedless style presentation. Just kind of rig it right up in there. And then it's got a little slot in the back of the frog that you can rig that hook through. There you go, you're ready to rock and roll. Now, I would throw this on a medium to medium heavy. I'd lean more towards a medium, so you have a lot more tip to it. A lot like where you'd want to throw this regular popper, this Bass Hick Anthony, but this one with that weedless presentation is going to be able to come through some nastier covers. So if you have a little bit of lighter matted vegetation up top, that hydrilla and milfoil kind of barely topping out at the water's surface, this could be incredibly effective. Now this green pumpkin, we all know, catches fish. You can throw it clear water, stained water, cloudy days, sunny days. It does a great job of kind of representing a variety of bait fish. For this one, I would say it's probably gonna represent a pretty dark colored bluegill coming across the water surface. You can pop it or you can straight swim it because these tail legs are gonna kick a lot whenever you're moving this bait. So I would throw it on braid personally. You could definitely get away with a monofilament. I'd try to avoid a fluorocarbon because that's a sinking line. So yeah, you braid to mono, maybe a 30-pound braid. It's a little bit more finesse style. That hook's gonna pop out pretty easy once that fish bites down and you can really jab into them. So that's how I would fish these Z-Man pop frogs that I got in my August box. And the final thing I got in my August Monster Bass box is 110 yards of 12-pound test from K9 fluorocarbon. I've actually not used K9 fluorocarbon, but I do love using fluorocarbon. To be honest, I probably wouldn't use it with any of these baits here, but I would use it on drop shots, jigs. I mean, this is a 12-pound test, so you could get away with quite a few applications, chatterbaits, spinnerbaits, crankbaits. I mean, 12-pound test is incredibly versatile. You can't go wrong on bait casters. You can't go wrong directly on a spinning reel. If I'm gonna put it on a spinning reel, I'll probably go to braid to fluoro leader. Texas rigs you can use this with. I mean, fluorocarbon is incredibly versatile, especially in this 12-pound test line. So I'm excited about this K9 fluorocarbon and putting it to use whenever they're not eating my topwater baits.